you have strong convictions on many issues. Immigration ranks pretty high. And now I don't want to put words in your mouth, but my reading of your views is quite similar to mine in that it's wrong to think that immigrants add everything to Canada, but that Canada adds nothing to them. Right? On the contrary, one of the biggest attractions of Canada traditionally for immigrants has been that Canada offers them a safe, prosperous, and orderly society, unlike the places that they come from. Right? And that immigrants traditionally come, and especially, they don't just come themselves, they bring their children. I think this is terribly important, to be changed for the better by Canada. Yet, all of that was premised on an immigration system that would choose who came on the basis of their ability to integrate into and contribute to Canada. And much of that has fallen by the wayside. Have I captured what you wanted to say? Is this your thinking about immigration? And if so, how did we go wrong, and what do we need to do to put it right?
Okay, so I'm 11th generation Canadian. However, my wife is a first generation Canadian. Her parents came from Germany. Her mother is a Rommel. You might know Erwin Rommel was one of her descendants of her mother. Her dad was Ukrainian. They both came to Canada separately and met in Hamilton, fell in love, had a family. They thought they had won the lottery. My father-in-law would not open his mouth until he was sure he was in Canada, because he was afraid at some point they were going to say, no, you're going back to Ukraine. So they thought they'd won. And what they did, as soon as they came to Canada, they started assimilating into the country. What is this Halloween? My father-in-law used to say, you mean you're going to go to doors and knock on the doors and try to get candy from people? What's the matter? I can buy you candy. But no, it was a tradition. So immigration, it's important to have immigration, but it's important to have the right kind of immigrants coming in. Immigrants that will assimilate into our culture. We need to make Canada something that people are proud of, that we define what a Canadian is. Here are our values, so that when an immigrant comes, he or she assimilates into our. That doesn't mean you get rid of your culture. Obviously, as a French Canadian, I have my culture. But Prime Minister Diefenbaker used to say, "I am a non-hyphenated Canadian." Now, just think about that for a minute. That's not a bad thing. I am a Canadian. I don't care if you're, Jewish Canadian, French Canadian, Irish, or whatever. You're a Canadian. And so before we can actually assimilate and bring people in and make them part of our fantastic, country, we need to make sure that we understand what our fantastic country is and what are those values that we want them to live by. Because they're now in Canada, and those are our values, and this is what you're joining. You have won the lottery, but here's what it is.
I'm a bit concerned that, especially in just the last few years, we've let in a lot of people who don't think they've won the lottery coming to Canada. In fact, they didn't choose Canada. Is that a problem?
Yes, it's a problem. It's a problem. And, people who come to our country who don't learn the language, people who come to our country and let's say, continue with the worst parts of their culture, the honor system, if you want to call it that, those kind of things, honor killings, I guess is what I mean. I mean, those are things that are bad for our country. And again, why is that? Well, I think immigration has kind of gone out of control. There was this plan to make Canada 100 million people, have 100 million population by whenever. I think it was
2050.
2050 or 2100 or 2100. Anyway, I think this is not a good idea. We need to restrict now and go back to a system. And I think there was a point system. I've never actually looked at what it was, but I'm told that there was a point system that worked very well for years and years and years, but we got away from that. So we need to do that. I mean, it's interesting that you look at Quebec now. It's also trying to kind of bring immigrants that are, you know, that will fit into the Quebec mold. So I mean, you know, let's see what other places are doing, and let's try to do a better job with bringing in the right immigrants.
This is another instance of where Canadians have been too nice, too deferential, too willing not to defend the values that made
I think
Canada such a strong country.
I think it's part of the wokeness as well. You know, that we're trying to be everything to everybody, and you know, and people wringing their hands again, and you know, we're trying to help everybody. Well, you can't help everybody. You can't. You should help those that deserve to be helped. Yeah, and you know, I've worked in places that, you know, I've seen some nasty things. I mean, I was in Kosovo, Cyprus 3 times, in former Yugoslavia for a year. It's, you know, those are countries where there is strife going on. But I've also seen some of those folks immigrate to Canada and actually become, you know, full citizens, and, you know, who are contributing to the country, to the society, that have assimilated and taken our values and believe in them. So, I mean, it's possible to do it.